On today's show, why there's too much offensive talent for the Ottawa Senators power play to finish outside the top 10 overall.
And we continue with our organizational value rankings today. We get into the Belleville tier.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Tuesday, September 9th, and Pillsy, we are back full-time Monday through Friday, 5 days a week.
Yep, first Tuesday episode in a while, so it feels good to be back in the grind here, and it's pre-season for us too, Ross, so we're going to see how this goes, but I'm excited to be back 5 shows a week. It was a little weird missing a couple days for the last, month and a half, so now it's back to the regularly scheduled programming.
And we appreciate everybody subscribing everywhere they get their podcasts, including on YouTube. You know what gets me excited? A nice power play goal. And today on the show, we're going to discuss the Senators' power play units, what we would like to see from them this year, and why we believe that they need to finish top 10 overall. And that is an attainable goal because just this past season, the Ottawa Senators' power play was clicking at 23.8%, which finished just outside the top 10 in 11th place. They did go on a few slumps throughout the season. It's going to happen, but top 10 should easily be the goal, no?
Yeah, I think you can get into the top 10 here. I certainly think their power play is going to be the position of strength when it comes to special teams. Not that their penalty kill is going to be bottom of the league type caliber, but I just think there's so much more potential for the Ottawa Senators on the power play than there is for them to shut down other teams on the penalty kill.
They acquired Jordan Spence, who's a puck-moving defenseman, but do you think that he's going to get a look initially as a second power play option?
No, I mean, that's Thomas Chabot's spot. I feel like it would be a bit of a slap in the face to Shabby if they took him off there.
Well, you could have a two defenseman power play unit if you wanted. It would be lefty-righty. But no, I get where you're going with that.
Is there any power play units that have 2 defensemen that are successful?
Let us know in the comments. But off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I guess you could have 2 offensive defensemen and it could work. But
the Senators had it two years ago, right? Chychrun and Chabot were both on the power play unit together.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know off the top of my head how that went with them on the ice together, but I know it wasn't the greatest when they were on the ice together, even strength. And those are 2 lefties. Certainly, if you're going to put 2 defensemen on the power play, you at least have to have lefty-righty.
So let's pull up what we have decided on as a team, because there are some disagreements internally, and we'll get into what they are. But we have the first power play unit staying exactly how it was in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That power play goal that Tim Stützle scored was on his one-timer side. Interesting. After last year, he started the season and the year before as well for a majority of it. You might remember he had 1 power play goal 2 seasons ago. They had him on the left flank for all that time, and they had no one-timer option. Remember, Josh Norris was playing the right side and Timmy was on the left. It's like, can we please flip this for crying out loud? But instead, now you have a world where I believe Timmy's going to start in that spot. Look, the biggest narrative coming out of the golf tournament, if you will, is Tim Stützle's self-evaluation that he needs to shoot the puck more. And that's true. So we've got Tim Stützle on the right side as a left shot, manning that one-timer position. Then we've got Brady Tkachuk net front, Drake Batherson in the bumper, Dylan Cousins as a right shot, one-timer option, and then Jake Sanderson running things from the back. Now, for me, Drake Batherson and Brady Tkachuk, I mean, as a power play goes, it's pretty fluid. It's going to be interchangeable. Guys are going to move around. We've seen Brady Tkachuk score from the half wall a lot more than he had in the past, or the dot, if you will. But I like the look of having 2 big human beings available as net front options. Drake 6'3", Brady 6'4", and then you've got the shooters with Jake Sanderson manning the quarterback position. I think this power play's got a little bit of everything from playmaking to shooting, for net front, for positioning. I don't see a world where this power play doesn't convert at a really successful pace.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great PP1 unit. Kachuk, Cousins, Batherson, Stutzla, Sanderson. Those are all top tier players, and you're going to find success one way or another, or multiple ways, with these guys as your unit. Now, I like this. I think they should go with this. My only possible switch wouldn't be to switch anyone personnel wise. Keep these 5 guys, but I love the idea of having Batherson on that left flank. I know he's a big body. You like him in front. I agree. That's fine. And he's been able to make plays from in tight like that. The first goal of the Ottawa Senators playoffs, Batherson was right in front of the net, and he's able to score there. But I was looking, I just searched Drake Batherson power play goals, and quite a few of them that I saw, maybe it was just my narrative or confirmation bias, hoping to see them and seeing them, but were scored by him on that left side at the circle with the one-timer. And so I wanted to see what the stats were about him when he is on the power play. And I think he's a bit more of a shooter than we might give him credit for, especially when it comes to the power play. I lost my power play page here, but I'm on it now. We got it. So on the power play for the Ottawa Senators last season, Drake Batherson had 61 shots. Only Brady Tkachuk had more with 79. He had 13 power play goals. Only Brady Tkachuk had more with 14. But where this gets interesting, Ross, is Drake Batherson's power play shooting percentage was 21.3%. So when he's shooting the puck on the power play, he's scoring 1 out of 5 times. And the only person that had better numbers, like that was consistently on the Ottawa Senators power play, was Josh Norris at 31.5. We all know what Norris can do there. Perron had 22.2, but he played significantly less time on the power play. So I would like to see Batherson on that left side, but no qualms really if he ends up being in the middle.
Yeah, and if you're looking at how Travis Green's thought process rolls along here, I think we might still see Claude Giroux get reps up there. It was the second power play unit for most of the year, but then in the playoffs at times they would put Giroux up there, and obviously there were injuries to guys on the first power play unit, most notably Brady Tkachuk down the stretch, and Giroux was the guy who moved up to that top unit. But I love the way it shapes up as we have it there. Positionally, you can have your little qualms here and there, but those are the 5 players we believe will start the season on the first power play unit, which brings us to the second power play unit. And with the departure of Adam Gaudette, who I know that he is a shooter and he is a guy who had an exceptional season for what it was, but like his damage didn't come on the power play, really. He had 3 power play goals last year, Adam Gaudette did, and it's just, now that opens up what everybody wants, and that's Shane Pinto back on the power play.
Yeah, especially Shane Pinto. Now, is Travis Green going to do that? Remains to be seen. I think it would make a lot of sense. And I don't want Giroux on that top power play unit, Ross. I want him on the second power play unit with Shane Pinto. We've seen, how many times have we seen where they were able to perfect that quick one-touch pass to the bumper, and Pinto was able to capitalize on it? I think the chemistry those two had together in the short amount of time we were able to see them together has been really good. And then we got to get Zetterlund on his shooting side, a right shot on the left side. I want this power play unit, for those just listening, we've got Greg net front, Pinto in the middle, Giroux on the right, Zetterlund on the left, Shabbat as the defenseman. I want this second power play unit to be going through Zetterlund's shot. Like, that should be plan A, is to set up Zetterlund for the one-timer, and then Ridley Gregg causing havoc in front of the net, as we know he does. And if you want a plan B, that Giroux Pinto bumper play. And one thing too, Thomas Shabbat, I'll give credit to him. He had a great season last year, but one thing I noticed that he did so much better this year than he did for the rest of his career, I'll even say, is less shots into shin pads. How many times do we see Shabby on the blue line just ripping a wrist shot right into someone's shin pad? Like, he was doing such a better job at getting a better angle, working the line, moving, pivoting, skating. And I think he's going to do a lot better with getting that shot through and then allowing there to be tips, rebounds, and deflections.
So on the first power play unit, we have 3 lefties and 2 righties. And on the second power play unit, we have 3 righties and 2 lefties. Nice. Claude Giroux, we have playing his strong side. We know playmaking is where he's going to make an impact. So we don't need him to be teeing up one-timers. We prefer his slap shots to come on breakaways or
shootouts.
Shootouts, exactly. So, yeah. Option 1, Zetterlund shot. Option 2, Pinto's shot in the middle of the ice. Option 3, get it down to Ridly Greig and try to make movements near the goal line, around the goal mouth, behind the net, and then get it out to Giroux to tee it up. I'd like to see Chabot shoot a little more. I know we don't want him in shin pads. I'd like them to get through, but if he can work on getting his pucks through, you can have a collapsing forward core that can get into the net front where most of the goals are scored there right out front, because he had 1 power play goal last year. He only had 8 power play points last year, which kind of surprised me as well. I think that's something that Chabot can and will produce more. So those are the reasons why we believe the Senators will have a top 10 power play in the league. That first unit, dynamic, so many ways that they can beat you. And then the second unit, you've got shooters out there, and Zetterlund and Pinto, and guys who can produce in different ways. So I just think this is the type of power play that you can't really prep for. It's not like, for example, and I know it's a successful one, but Washington, it's the greatest goal scorer of all time. You're going to use them, but like they're unpredictable is what I'm trying to say in Ottawa. You don't have that, or even just Ottawa before. Like you knew it was going to Josh Norris.
Yeah.
You just knew it was going there. So now there's just going to be different ways that they're going to attack you, and we'll see how that all develops.
Yeah, I think both these power play units can find ways to have success. I'd like to see it basically minute and a half of PP1, the last 30 seconds of PP2. No offense to them, but that first power play unit is just so lethal. I want to see them get majority of the opportunity.
So that's what we would do. But Pilsy, last year, David Perron averaged 2 minutes per game on the power play. Do you believe that David Perron will be on the power play unit? And this is what we wanted, but do you think Travis Green will stick with the veteran as well?
I think it's quite possible, and I think it's quite possible that Shane Pinto is not on the power play. But I think that would be a mistake. Now, I thought about putting Perron in, Ross, because he said it. I forget when it was, but the Ottawa Senators were having trouble getting shots on net, and David Perron was just coming back, and his quote to the media was like, something, I'm paraphrasing, something like, I'm not even going to think, I'm just going to shoot. Like, I know to get the puck on net. And I loved hearing that. So,
but he does.
But that's the thing. Like, sometimes you just need a guy who is going to head down, fire that puck at the net, and hope for good things to happen. Because the Ottawa Senators, for too long, especially when Tim Stützle is in his giving phase where he will do anything but shoot the puck, you can make pretty passes and cycle the puck, but if it doesn't get towards the net, nothing's going to happen. You're just playing pass out there. So sometimes it might be good to get David Perron injected into the power play unit just to get that puck on net.
Last season, the Senators were the only team in the league, and don't fact check me on this, but I believe I read this, with 3 players with more than 30 power play points. Tim Stützle, Jake Sanderson, and Drake Batherson, all with over 30 points on the power play. So let's see if they can repeat it. Let us know in the comments as well. We want to see what your power play unit setup would be for the Ottawa Senators. On Thursday's show, we're going to do the defensive side of things on the penalty kill. We got a Sens Central Citizen and another great topic for you on tomorrow's show. But later on today's show, our organizational value rankings, we are into the Belleville tier. We've got a number of players to get to, and some of them I would still consider prospects. But if you missed our prospects tier, mostly guys who are still playing in junior, college, and unsigned, you can go find those wherever you get your podcast. They are in the final segments of each single show. And at the end of it, we're going to put them all in one grand show that we will put out on YouTube exclusively. Organizational value rankings are next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel.
FanDuel.
The NFL season is here. Week 1 is done in the books. Week 2 coming up. Everything's unpredictable, but If you think you can predict it, make sure you're heading to FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is my go-to sportsbook. I love the FanDuel sportsbook. And it is because you can get so many different ways to bet: player props, same game parlays, or jump in live as the action unfolds. Every game is more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays and Thursdays and Mondays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, Pillsy, we are back, and we are back with answers here, and we are correct. There are a number of teams with 2 players with more than 30 power play points, but the Ottawa Senators, the only team last year in the National Hockey League with 3 players with over 30 power play points. Now, there is one slight asterisk there. Martin Necas was the 3rd Colorado Avalanche, but how many of those power play points came while he was still with Carolina?
Yeah, come on.
And also Rantanen's there, and they were traded for one another, but all with one team. Senators, only one with 3 players, 30 power play points. Jake Sanderson had 30. Drake Batherson had 31, and Tim Stützle had 33.
And Ross, that just shows you how much this team relied on the power play, because you look at their point totals, like the top 3 point getters were Tim Stützle, Drake Batherson, Jake Sanderson with 79, 68, and 57. So, like, a lot of those guys relied on the power play to really bulk up their overall season stats.
And thanks for coming out, Detroit Red Wings. Lucas Raymond had well over 30 power play points. He was actually 5th in the league, tied for 3rd in the league with 37 power play points. Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat both had 29. So not 30. Tough. Speaking of tough, we got some tough guys to kick off our organizational value rankings. We are on to Belleville's tier. We are at 42nd overall. We are counting down the top 65 players, that's all of them, in the Ottawa Senators organization. And coming in number 42, a player that we had to add to this list late, it's Cam Crotty. Good Ottawa boy, former Gloucester Ranger. Last season was the captain of the AHL's Iowa Wild. Makes his debut here at number 42.
Yes, the veteran spokesman for the Belleville Senators D-Corps at the age of 26 years old. Now, he does have 283 AHL games under his belt, 6 years. But with the Iowa Wild last season in 64 games, no goals, 10 assists, -7, 56 PIMs. So he's going to be more of your stay-at-home veteran defenseman. Likely he's going to be on that 3rd pair, or maybe if Coach Bell wants a little bit more veteran experience, he'll bump him up to the 2nd pair. But I think this was a move where the Ottawa Senators and Belleville Senators clearly recognized that they had a young D-Corps and just wanted to have a safer insurance option of a guy that's been there and done that. And as a captain of the Iowa Wild, you get some leadership on that back end too. Overall, nice signing. And I'm glad they added Cam Crotty, Ottawa boy. You got to love it.
Yeah, you got to appreciate that. And they liked him enough that they gave him a 2-year contract. So it is worth noting as well that it's going to be a longer term thought out process. We see so many one-year deals going on in free agency, but you also look, and whether it's call-ups, injuries, you have to use so many defensemen at the AHL level. They lost Philip Roos, who played 68 games for them last year. There's going to be change no matter what. Nicholas Matenpalo's 24 games. I was trying to count off the top of my head. I'll say it's around 11 defensemen that they used in Belleville last year. So this depth, bringing in a 6'3" defenseman, over 210 pounds, physical, had one NHL game last year as well. So he's a guy who I think it's going to be just a nice depth piece on the right side, always a position of need around the NHL. And it can put Ottawa in a position of strength in that spot. So Cam Crotty at 42 overall makes his debut, brought in free agency this year. We'll see what he brings. I think it's just going to be kind of steady Eddie would be as good as it gets for Cam Crotty. Don't expect an offensive explosion or anything like that. Also worth noting, there's some familiarity for him with the organization, not just because he's an Ottawa boy, but he and Brady Tkachuk went to Boston University together. So be a nice reunion for those two to catch up after so many years apart. Coming in at number 41 on our organizational value rankings is Hayden Hodgson. This guy, he knew the assignment when he got called up to Ottawa, got 2 games, but in Belleville, where he spent the majority of his season, oh yeah, he knew the assignment there too. Be physical, protect the investments, and, be a good teammate. And that's what he did. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury and missed a big portion of the season, but he's a big boy, 29 years old, 6'2", 220 pounds, right shot, right wing. And again, he protects the investments.
You got to have a guy like Hayden Hodgson's in your organization, at least one of them.
Like he's Scott Sabrin.
Yeah, very similar. I miss Scott Sabrin.
Dude, he's back in the division.
Where'd he end up?
Tampa.
Tampa. Okay, good.
He was with Toronto, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah.
The original creator of the quote, protect the investment.
That's why I brought him up. It's such a great quote.
So
hey,
good.
why they basically said like, hey Scott, why are you here?
Yeah. He's like, I know why I'm here, let me tell you. But Hayden Hodgson is going to have to take on that role. And I think he's the type of guy, Ross, that if Travis Green says, look, we're heading into Montreal, we're heading into, who are the tough teams these days?
I was going to say Montreal was one.
Well, I should say that like there's going to be physicality,
like heavy teams.
Yeah,
the Florida Panthers. Ever heard of them?
Yeah. So if you have an assignment like that and you want to bring up a guy that has some physicality, Hayden Hodgson can come in for a game or two and set the tone and make everybody around him feel a little bit more comfortable when they're out on the ice. So yeah. I'm glad he's here, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how he helps a young team in Belleville.
Yeah, and he would have played the rest of those meaningless games at the end of the NHL season. Unfortunately, suffered an injury in that game against Philadelphia, his second NHL game. But that first one, he played 7 minutes, had 4 hits, got in this fight. You can see the photo if you're watching on YouTube where he's just pounding. That was actually a great fight both ways. Pizzetta was throwing him too. That was entertaining for sure. And those weren't just like 4 like rub out hits after a clear. He was running guys. So I appreciated that. He played with a lot more pace than I expected. And in Belleville, like, he's not going to be an offensive contributor, but still had 5 goals, 6 assists in 43 games, 156 PIMs. He knows what he's doing out there. And he jumps up 7 spots from 48 to 41. He's got 2 years left on his contract. We'll see what Hayden Hodgson can bring in his second season with the organization. And you also, when you bring up Hayden Hodgson, Pilsy, you have to bring up that preseason game against Vegas where he rocked Mark Stone. And Mark Stone was like, I'm never going to see this guy again in the media. He's like, this guy trying to make his name for himself here, trying to run the captain of the reigning Stanley Cup champs. And he's like, I don't care. I'm trying to win a job here. And he's won a place in my heart, at least, as an entertaining player to have in your organization. So Hayden Hodgson is 41 on our organizational value rankings. We're into the top 40, and we'll get to that next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day. All right, Pilsy, let's jump right back into it. Our organizational value rankings into the top 40, and it is Tyler Boucher, a guy who we have stayed consistent in knowing that it's been a tough road for him, being drafted 10th overall, the expectations that come with that, the injuries that have come with that. But at some point, the production has to come as well. And he did play 47 games last year. He's 6'2", 216 pounds. He's already 22 years old, a right shot, right winger. And you can see the pace. You can see the physicality. You can see the dream of what he could become. But we're starting to run out of time here.
Yeah, I think this might be Tyler Boucher's last year in the organization, whether they try to shine him up and trade him to get him a new spot, or if they just decide to part ways at the end of the year. Because now Dorion, Trent Mann, the guys who really kind of put their neck out there, taking him 10th overall, they're long gone, and this regime doesn't really have that justification to keep propping him up and to try to make him into something that he just isn't quite yet. In order to develop, you need to play games, and unfortunately that's been Tyler Boucher's biggest obstacle, is playing enough games. Last season was actually his most amount of games played, even more than when he played in college and in the OHL. 47 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, -4, 34 penalty minutes. I think we're going to see Tyler Boucher in a bottom 6 role in Belleville.
Yeah, and hopefully comes to camp just ready to rock and roll, because I feel like in the past some of the problem has been that he lifts so much. He's like almost too strong, and I know that almost sounds like an oxymoron, but it's almost like hit the yoga mat, hit the Pilates. Let's get loose out there. But like I was saying, like the skills are there. He's got a great shot. He's fast. He's physical. He's mean. He's got the personality that, like, you don't have to force this guy to turn it on for a game. He's dialed. Like, we loved him in the draft as a 39th overall or 41st overall pick. Ottawa had 2 second-round picks really close together, and then they took him at 10th, and we're like trying to see the vision. We tried to understand what they were looking for, but it just has not developed. So Tyler Boucher, like, to me at this point, everybody's given up on him. What can you do now? Can you come to camp and open people's eyes? He's going to need to do that, because I think as far as the fan base is concerned, it's already lost draft capital.
Yeah, definitely. I think the idea, Ross, when they drafted him was, look, we have all these high caliber offensive top line guys now in the system. Let's find that elite physical third line player that when come playoffs, you've got a guy that can play that role. But that is not the way you should be drafting when you're looking at 10th overall in a rebuild. So it's tough and not his fault. And we're rooting for the kid. Great guy. He's been on the show multiple times.
Great family, man.
Great family. And this graph is not how you want a line graph to go, whether it's stocks, organizational value rankings, or what. So we're hoping he can have a bounce back year and prove everybody that he's got some potential here, and that at 22 years old, you can't give up on him just yet.
Yeah. I mean, Zach Ostapchuk had more points with Belleville than Boucher did last year, and he played 15 games versus Boucher's 47.
Yeah.
Tyler Boucher had the same amount of points as Sam Gagner in Belleville last year.
And he was given opportunities.
He was. And we'll see what happens. 10th overall pick in 2021. Tyler Boucher is down 4 more spots. He's 40th on our organizational value rankings. Coming in at number 39, it's Wyatt Bongiovanni. Left shot, left wing, 6 feet tall, 194 pounds. It was 53rd last year. We, again, have organize this differently so that Belleville players do get a little bit more respect than players who have not signed their deals, mid-round picks, that sort of thing. But I think it's deserved as well. Like 22 goals, man, that's something that definitely catches your attention. Enough for Ottawa. We saw a lot of the RFAs get one-way AHL contracts, but with Bongiovanni, it's a two-way deal. He's still part of the organization, not in the same category as the Philip Daoust of the world.
Yeah, I mean, Ross, those 22 goals were crucial. He was tied for the lead in goals in Belleville with Angus Crookshank. So that tells you where he was in the offensive hierarchy of this team. And then next was Stephen Halliday at 19. So this is a team that struggled to score, but Wyatt Bongiovanni was able to find ways to get the puck in the back of the net. And I really want to see him paired up with Stephen Halliday. I think those two together, Stephen Halliday, as everyone knows, is a disher. Get him with Bonjo. They got good chemistry, and you can really make things work here. I think Coach David Bell trusts Wyatt Bongiovanni and sees the potential now. So I like that the Ottawa Senators brought him back. I was worried they were going to part ways this offseason, but he's a player, and watch his highlights. See, these aren't just cheap, cheeky goals. No. He's got a really nice shot.
He's a shooter, and the thing about Bongiovanni is he's not going to be playing, maybe in the same spot, because he was usually second line behind Crookshank on the left side, and they brought in Ole Lexell or Arthur Kaliev, guys who are likely going to be top-line players if they don't make it as the 13th forward in Ottawa. But I really liked the fact that they brought him in. He needed a fresh start. He was stuck with the Manitoba Moose, wasn't going to get an opportunity in Winnipeg. They bring him in for future considerations. And, like, Billsy, we talked about the 22 goals this past year, which is great. We should be talking about that. But he made an immediate impact even the year before when he came in. He had 8 goals in 14 games down the stretch and then had 4 points in 7 playoff games. So, like, that's a 68 game sample size where he has 30 goals with the Belleville Senators. So we're excited to see what Wyatt Bongiovanni can bring this upcoming season. I think more of the same would be great. If he can maybe get that to 25, 30 goals, that would be awesome. But a real nice depth piece for the organization. And that's why he comes in at number 39, because he's been able to produce at the AHL level. They got him in that trade, and now he's up multiple spots. That's a graph that if it goes again like that next year, we could be taken seriously. I know he's 26 years old. It's not like he's a prospect that's still got all this untapped potential, but he could be a really nice organizational piece. And he's got a 1-year deal with the team. Coming in at number 38, a player that was brought in this offseason to shore up the goaltending in Belleville. 6'1", 218-pound Hunter Shepard. He's 29 years old, Bills. He's coming off the worst season that he's had in a long time, but we can't just discount the fact that this guy led the Hershey Bears to back-to-back Calder Cup championships just 2 and 3 years ago. This isn't like far removed, like he did that and we're trying to Matt Murray him and refine his game. It was one down year and a year where he spent a lot of it on the bench in Washington, where he was a call-up and looked like Happy Gilmore's caddy, and Happy Gilmore won there. But this guy, he's got the pedigree, and he's shown in the past ability to get the job done.
And he has such good AHL experience. He has 118 AHL games. In that, he has a 222 goals against, 914 save percentage, 11 shutouts. Check this out. This is the best part. His record is 78, 26, and 12. Like, this guy wins games, and he's got 47 playoff games in the AHL with a 30 and 17 record.
What's his playoff save percentage overall?
Playoff save percentage overall is only okay at 909 and a 244 goals against, but he's getting those wins, Ross. That's the stat I'm most concerned about. And like you mentioned,
just win, baby.
Calder Cup trophies under his belt too. So this was the type of third goalie I wanted the organization to bring in. Now, did I want it to be Hunter Shepard? No, but now that it is him, I think he's a guy that makes a lot of sense. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Mad Sogard. And depending on how things go, Levy and Shepard might be the two in Belleville to start the year. And then maybe Mads comes down later. Maybe he doesn't make it down if he's placed on waivers. Who knows? But I do like the Hunter Shepard signing. It's low risk. It's a guy that can hopefully bring some stability to the crease in Belleville. Like, Hunter Shepard's going to be in Belleville all year. Like, I don't think I hope there isn't a scenario where he ends up backing up in the NHL for Ottawa, but Belleville Senators, they needed a stable veteran there. Like, the goalie carousel for them last year was insane. Michael Simpson, Malcolm Subban, like, these guys were not meant to be a piece of the puzzle last year for Belleville, and they had to be out of necessity. They did a decent job for considering the situation, but this was the veteran goalie this organization needed.
Yes, and we'll see what he can do as a bounce-back performance, because his save percentage the 2 previous seasons in Hershey, 929 2 years ago, insane, and 916 the year before. So he's got to get back to that. 891 won't cut it, because that's pretty much – actually, you know what? 891 would have been second behind Levy in save percentage in Belleville last year. Subban was 883. Simpson was 880. Even Mark Sinclair got 4 games. He was at 875, and Mads had 8 games at 858. So, yeah, this is a very crucial signing for the Belleville Sens, who need to make the playoffs this year. There's just no way around it. So, free agent signing, 1-year deal, $775,000, league minimum deal. Hunter Shepard comes in at number 38 on our organizational value rankings. And wrapping up today's portion, it's going to be Xavier Bourgault at 37th, down 4 spots from 33 the year before. He's 22 years old, first round pick from 2021 draft, 5'11", 179 pounds. But as we talked about in our top 10 prospects, he snuck in there at number 10. He finished the year really well.
Yeah, I'm giving Xavier Bourgault a chance here. I know Sens fans maybe aren't that excited about him. Sens prospects even commented, Ross, that Bourgault should not be on our top 10 list. Fair. That's a guy that knows his stuff about Sens prospects. But I'm trying this out. We're going to give Xavier Bourgault full support here. I want to see him a second line winger. I think in Belleville would be a good spot for him. And go check out his highlights if you haven't seen much of him. I was impressed by what I saw once I was able to kind of get a better picture of how the season went for him in Belleville. And he was a guy that started off pretty solid in his rookie year in the AHL, 34 points in 62 games, really fell out of favor with Bakersfield the next year. And that's why the Ottawa Senators and Edmonton Oilers kind of made that Yarventi Bourgault trade, two guys that they had a lot bigger hopes for, but maybe just needed a change of scenery. So Bourgault now in his second full season in Belleville, I think he's going to have a better understanding of what Coach Bell wants from him, where he fits into this team. So I think we're going to see a year where he's pushing closer to 20 goals and closer to 40 points.
Yeah, rather than just 26, but he did have 12 points in the final 16 games of the regular season last year, and that's when Crooker was up with Ottawa, Hodgson was up with Ottawa. It just gave more opportunity to Bourgault, and he took advantage of it. So he's a guy, I'm willing to take a chance on him. I'm not wearing the Bourgault coat like you are, trying it on for size, seeing how it feels. Is it warm enough when it gets cold? Does it prevent rain? I'm just here to see what his next step is, because much like Tyler Boucher, same draft class, same first round, a little bit later on, but the years are passing by where you're no longer, like, soon it's going to be Wyatt Bongiovanni territory, where even if you score 20 goals, you're still in this range in our organizational value rankings, where it's like for Bourgault, we still believe there's more potential at 22 years old, but running out of years here to be a prospect.
Yeah. I mean, 22, he's still young.
Okay. If you say
22 is not young.
It is, but it's not 21, 20, 19, or 18. Like think about all the
I can't argue with that.
Think about all the prospect lists that come out, right? It's like under 23.
Totally.
And then it's like you kind of know what, like, there's obviously exceptions to the rule, but you kind of know what kind of player you have once you're 24, 25 years old.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting that he could skyrocket into like a top 6 NHLer, but I think if he can string together 2 good years in the AHL, he could be a fringe NHL guy that plays top 6 AHL and can provide an offensive punch to a bottom 6 for a small sample size of games. That's kind of my hope and goal for Xavier here.
Yeah, and he was a guy that was brought in to be another piece who's trying to move forward. 37th on our organizational value rankings. Pillsy, we got more Belleville coming up on tomorrow's show, and then we'll move to our next tier. But as we do, after each and every show, we will pull up how things look as they stand now. And there are not spoilers, like I tried to do yesterday, which was not a spoiler. I will stand by that. That was our template that we used. We kept the first player from last year's to use for this one, but there are the team logos next to where each player comes in on this list. The next tier is going to be the NHL depth tier, but tomorrow we've got more Belleville. So Xavier Bourgault, Hunter Shepard, Wyatt Bongiovanni, Tyler Boucher, Hayden Hodgson, and Cam Crotty begin our Belleville tier.
Yeah, spoiler, all the players in the Belleville tier playing in Belleville.
Whoa.
So if you guys were able to piece that together, good for you. But yeah, as we move along here.
But even the NHL depth tier, a lot of Belleville there.
Yeah. And that's what you want, right? Like a good AHL team, you want a handful of players that can spend time in the NHL. Otherwise, you run into some real serious issues.
Big time. Pillsy, final thoughts on today's show. I got one if you don't.
I got no final thoughts, so rip it.
Okay, yesterday was the annual golf tournament for the Ottawa Senators.
Mm-hmm.
Something was notable, though. There were 3 players included who are on 2-way contracts. Carter Yakimchuk makes sense. First-round pick. You want him to be a part of the core one day. You're going to invite him to these sorts of events. The other 2 were pretty interesting to me, and it could give a glimpse at what Travis Green is thinking when it comes to whether it's a first call-up because we know the Senators have 7 defensemen on one-way contracts, with Matt and Paolo getting his. Lassie Thompson was there. And so is Stephen Halliday. Halliday doesn't even need waivers this year.
Yeah.
He's very likely going to be the number 1 center in Belleville.
Yep.
But this is a nice little carrot to give him after leading the Belleville Sens in scoring last year, being like, hey, man, we see you as a part of this group, man. Like, let's go.
Well, another carrot for them to give him. Remember, they called him up unofficially for practice, and he just skated with the boys and then went back to Belleville.
And on the first line, he didn't skate with the extras.
Yeah, true, actually. Yeah, so they understand what they have in Stephen Halliday, and I think they want to keep him motivated. And if there's an injury, hopefully not, but I would say he's your first call-up available as far as forwards go.
Yeah, I'm so stoked for him, man. His journey's been awesome, from being an overage draft pick to then going to college and then Belleville and just scoring wherever he went. He is an absolute beauty too, real good friend of the show. That's it for today's show. We'll be back tomorrow with a Sens Central Citizen. We're also going to ask the question, how likely is it that despite having all these wingers, the Travis Green runs back the same third line of Shane Pinto, Ridley Gregg, and Michael Amadio? We'll get into that tomorrow. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.